officer, but from audio in the car. I don't always control what radio they listen to or anything, so we do ask that they try to turn their AM/FM radios down, but it comes over on video pretty good. These mics pick up pretty good in the car. Video is recorded in clips in the car, so that's why you'll see a break and then it goes. We've got it on autoplay, so it goes to the next clip as it's continuing. Here, feel that Mr. Medley's showing him his phone. Here he shows him the phone where he has a picture of a California identification, and he's calling in the vehicle identification number because it has a drive-out tag to try to confirm some ownership on the vehicle. Mr. Medley told the officer that he's recently moved here from California. We don't know exactly how long Mr. Medley's been in the area to necessarily obtain a Georgia or Tennessee driver's license or exactly where he's living at right now. the deputy did report that Mr. Medley did seem a little nervous, and as you can see, a little bit of movement in the car. The deputy confirmed some information on his mobile data terminal that I believe the vehicle identification he had called in was received wrong by dispatch, so he was going to go back up with pad and pen and write it down so he could enter it himself. That's a gun. So the gun fell off the roof of the car. The gentleman's driving extremely reckless. He's up on the sidewalk and curb there. See parts of the car there, and then the vehicle actually crashed there. Luckily, he didn't hit any other vehicles. I think several cars had reported they had to stop and stuff as he came through the intersection and such. Mr. Medley did receive injuries because of the accident, but the deputy waits for a number of other officers to get there. So the deputy does wait for a number of other officers to get there, and they wind up having to break the back window of the vehicle and communicate with Mr. Medley and get him to come out of the vehicle. He does wind up crawling out. We don't know if he has any other guns or anything in the vehicle. We don't know what his intentions were at the time and what kind of a threat he may be, so or why he even pulled the gun in the first place. The officer didn't know. Mr. Medley is a convicted felon. He has an extensive criminal history from California. So he's charged with a list of violations you can see there. I feel that the grace of God was watching over both of them that day, to be perfectly honest. It could have went a number of different ways with what we've seen in dealings with these kind of situations with us in law enforcement. And I just think it was the grace of God that I wasn't having to deliver a bad notice to that officer's family and or to Mr. Medley's family, either way. So we just felt this was information we should get out to the public and see what our law enforcement deal with on a regular basis. This was you never want to say a routine traffic stop, but this was a stop for a seatbelt violation. This shouldn't have really went anywhere else. He was probably going to get a warning. You know, had we can confirm that he had a valid driver's license, that officer didn't know he was a convicted felon, that officer didn't know there was a gun in the car. The gun did come back stolen from a burglary in Chickamauga, so he's also charged with possession of stolen property. And unfortunately, he did receive some injuries from the crash, and you know, he's having to go through that right now in a local hospital and trying to get those things repaired. So, but when they're done with him there, he's going to have to come answer for a number of charges here in Georgia. So, you know, we don't know. He's not cooperating with us as far as talking with us anymore as to what his intentions really were. We don't know. So, but luckily, when the officer walked back up to the car, the officer reported that he felt Mr. Medley was looking away, either looking in his rearview mirror or side mirror, maybe trying to see where the officer was, and you can see how the officer kind of slowly reaches in and grabs that gun. And but it could have went so many different ways. And I'm very thankful that it didn't, but you know, these are the type of situations that law enforcement can deal with every day, and it's very complicated. So, I have any questions?
Any idea where Mr. Medley was residing in Georgia?
No, at this time I'm not sure. Right now we just have him down for his California address.
What was that exact location where he was pulled over, and where did he end up?
It was the Super 8 Motel on Lafayette Road. I don't know that I'm 100% positive of the address of that. and where he wrecked was just north of Cloud Springs Road, so not even an eighth of a mile that he made it up the road. As you saw, it was just a short period of time. The officer never really even had time to get back up behind him. I don't think he let out the gas when he hit it and was leaving. You may notice when you see the video, when you watch it, but that was a 1999 Ford Crown Vic, but it locked up the posi traction. You'll see two tread marks going out of that Super 8 motel, so that means he was in it pretty hard.
Can you give more detail about why you felt like it was important for the public to see this, especially because the timing of everything else that's been going on? I feel like you're talking about it, but you haven't quite said it.
Yeah, so I mean, with everything that's going on nationally and such, you know, I'm not saying that we all can't change a little bit and do some things differently, but you know, it's people's interactions that cause a lot of our beliefs. So I mean, if you think about how this may now affect that officer in every traffic stop he may have past that, to have that in the back of his mind, and so then he may then react differently based on his experiences. And just like some people of color may relate to law enforcement based on their experiences, their past experiences with law enforcement. So I'm not saying there's probably some give and take that needs to happen in both areas, but there's things that needs to be fixed. And it's because of some of these situations that may and really have brought about a lot of our tactics that we do use. It's because of past experience. Most every policy and such is written because of somebody did something previously and needed a policy to be written about it. So, and laws are the same way of why we change our laws, because of past actions. So there are a lot of complicated things, and it's, you know, it's this, again, you saw the officer was, you know, is that a textbook traffic stop because of the officer leaning down in the car? And we don't really teach it that way, but that's a nice, he's one of our nice southern boys here from the south, and he's very personable, and, you know, he wasn't feeling threatened or anything at the first of that stop. There wasn't any reason we couldn't have a conversation, and all I was trying to do is make sure you're legal to be on the road. So, but things changed, and I mean, walking back up and then seeing a gun pointing in your direction, and it was loaded, then yeah, that can cause a lot of differences.
Two parts that stood out to me are when he grabbed the gun, he didn't seem to freak out, it was very calm, took the gun out, and then the part where he almost grabs his and then chooses not to. How important were those two parts as far as how officers are being trained in your department?
Well, I mean, you know, again, he felt like he was dealing with a deadly situation. I think the calmness of him grabbing the gun was because he didn't feel Mr. Medley knew he was there. He had saw him, and it's hard to see his head because of the headrest and the post on the car. But he didn't think Mr. Medley knew he was there. So he was cautiously saying, hey, you know, I don't know what his intentions are. I'm going to grab that thing. And so it wasn't just real panic. You know, had he stepped back and drawn his gun, then who knows where it might have went from there, you know, and shots would have been fired or what. And then again, you know, now it's all starting to register with him of, oh, I just took a gun from somebody and now he's speeding away. You know, what threat is he? And the officer did draw his gun, but he holstered it because the subject was speeding away, and he needed to get back to his car.
I know you said that the officer might feel more threatened going forward with traffic stops. Do you feel like there's a cause for concern that he may feel threatened with someone who shares the same demographic as Mr. Medley?
No, I don't think so. It's just something that, you know, of everyone's experiences, you have to turn around and figure that factor in. But again, we train constantly, so we will be impacting back into those experiences. You know, you still got to deal with. And understand, this is one stop out of how many hundreds that officer may make in a year. So, yes, this one stop may elevate it a little bit, but then if he has 50 other stops that then take him back down, then, you know, it may gradually kind of go away. But of all of us, I've been in this now going on almost 32 years, you know, seeing people reach under things while I'm talking to them, or reach around, reach under seats, things like that. I know from my past experience of what I have found in those areas while I've been out doing enforcement that then turns around and raises my heightened senses. So yes, you know, if I'm talking to you and we haven't talked about you reaching for your glove box and opening your glove box, then you don't need to be reaching over and opening your glove box, because I know there's a lot of firearms that are stored in glove box and center console.
In this video, I feel like what I saw was the officer trying to de-escalate the situation without, you know, of course with the person having a gun in hand, instead of reaching for his gun and then just, you know, shooting him, he just tried to get it from him. How would you describe his actions? I mean, I know you already mentioned that he was leaning down, and that's not necessarily by the book policy on a traffic stop, but how would you describe his actions in this scenario?
I mean, I commend the officer and his actions in this scenario, but I also think it's by the grace of God that it didn't go in a bad direction. That he easily could have just as well been shot, you know, but something stopped Mr. Medley from pulling that trigger, maybe, or what? I don't know. You know, there were drugs found in the vehicle as well. We don't know what his level of you know, intoxication was on those drugs. So, but I feel that a number of members in our community every day pray for a hedge of protection around us, and sometimes I honestly feel that is what we all need, and I think that's what turned around and protected both of those gentlemen that day. And I just think it's very important that we get that out, that even here in North Georgia, you know, this can easily happen.
Given the climate of the situation we're in right now, what does it say that we are here to show a video, essentially showing an officer doing his job correctly and practicing de-escalation tactics that they are supposed to be taught anyway? What does it say about what we're in right now that we actually have to show this?
I get it, you bring up de-escalation, but I mean, it went from like 0 to 100 plus. There was no building up. Mr. Medley wasn't getting upset. He wasn't gradually building up to anything. The officer went back to his car to check some information and walked back up and faces a gun. So it went from 0 to 1,000 and nothing. The de-escalation was just that luckily Mr. Medley, you know, wasn't being very, very threatening at that time as far as seeing the officer and either fixing to shoot him. The officer felt he had a split second that, hey, I think I can grab that gun. And he did. And luckily, I mean, you saw, he's a pretty big officer, you know, he's pretty sure of himself, and he felt like he could grab that gun without any issue.
Is that how you would want all your officers to act in that moment, is to try to do that first instead of pulling?
I can't say try to do that first. They have to judge it on every situation. Again, it was just things were just perfect. Again, I think there was more divine intervention going on there than what you and I can ever talk about or even understand. When you turn around and you got a gentleman pointing a gun at a law enforcement officer, you know, usually that don't end well, you know. But luckily that officer's going home to his family tonight. Unfortunately, Mr. Medley didn't, but it wasn't because of our actions, it's because of actions that he chose. But that happens, you know, that happens a number of times as well throughout our careers.
What's the officer's name?
Nathan Miller.
Can you spell it?
Nathanmiller.
And the suspect, you said Medley, his first name was?
Andrew Daniel Medley. That'll be in your press release too.
As far as the officer, is he on like kind of a leave after an incident like that, or does he kind of like, you know, do you guys give him a certain amount of time, or does he take what time he needs to kind of feel like comfortable again doing it, or does he just back out the next day or continue like? Yeah,
he's back out. You know, we talk to him and debrief him in those situations, and you know, make sure that it hasn't affected them in a manner that we need or need to give them some time. It's on a case by case basis. It's not something, because sometimes that can hurt an officer's psyche a little bit of, oh, I got to remove you. So it's more like, oh, what, did I do something wrong? So no, we work and just keep people communicating with them and making sure that they're being okay.
When you say that his actions were a part of the catalyst for a situation that went right, as opposed to a situation that, as you said before, could have gone completely differently? It
went to an outcome that I think all sides can be commendable by. And again, I cannot reiterate enough that I feel there was more divine intervention than what was going on of either person's actions. You know, luckily the officer didn't feel that he needed to go straight to his gun, but he was being threatened by a deadly weapon and could have.
How common is routine traffic stops? How common do they get out of hand on a weekly or monthly basis in your department?
Well, sorry, but from law enforcement, there is no routine traffic stop, as we just showed you. so none of them go routine a lot of the times. Yes, you know, there are little bumps and things that may go, but you know, yes, they do. You know, we've had chases usually interact that way. They may stop the first time. A percentage, we may want to say, that'd be tough to put a number on, but you know, there's at least probably one or two a week that don't end up as the officer planned on them ending up, as far as me either issuing you a warning or a citation to come to court for your violation.
How long has Officer Miller been a part of the department?
2 years.
Is that 2 years as a, you know,
No,
field person, or 2 years?
2 years total.
So in the jail,
Started in the jail and came out. Yes.
And that's 2 years in his total career.
Yes.
So what is next for the suspect? You said he's in a local hospital now recovering from his injuries, and then at that point, is he going to have to answer for charges here first and then be extradited to California?
Yes, he's got charges here he'll have to answer for.
What are some of those, the main ones?
Aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, fleeing and attempting to elude, possession of a firearm during a crime, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, possession of methamphetamines, possession and receiving stolen property, and then traffic charges.
Do you know anything about the timeline? I know it's pretty early because this just happened on Monday. Do you know anything about the timeline of when he'll be released from the hospital? When, you know, he might have a court date possibly?
Yeah, so no, unfortunately, we're at the mercy of the doctors and the people that are working on him right now. He had several broken bones, so
More serious injuries.
yes, so he's having to go through a few surgeries. So, but he is in custody. He's not available to leave. So I have a deputy with him.
Also know that the area that he like wrecked in and just that stretch of highway in general is a really highly trafficked area. So it's pretty amazing that I guess there wasn't any other injuries to anybody else, but it was like him hitting another car going through an intersection right there at Cloud Springs.
Absolutely, yes, especially that time of day. You know, what 3:30 in the afternoon, school had just let out. A lot of people, you know, start coming home, usually about that time, coming from Chattanooga and such. And we did have reports of people, you know, coming through the intersection that had to slam on their brakes as he came through. And again, not real certain, still doing some investigating about, you know, what else caused him to lose control through there. But I don't feel that from the time he sped off, I don't know that he ever had control of his vehicle.
I think that's all we have, unless you want to add anything else.
No, I appreciate y'all coming, and you know, we appreciate it. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, we have you a press release and a DVD back there with the videos, so you can get there. Okay.